Welcome back to the Roadmap to Retirement podcast. I'm excited to be joined by Lacy Garcia. Lacy, I make a joke every time about how I'm not going to introduce my guest. Go ahead and do your introduction.
Welcome to Roadmap to Retirement. Tune in for financial tips, investment strategies, and smart money moves to supercharge your retirement savings. Alex Neri, CFP, and guests are here to help you build your roadmap to retirement.
Thank you, Alex. It's wonderful to be here with you today. I am one of the founders and the CEO of Willow, trustwillow.com. We focus primarily on women and next-gen individuals and families and help them to find and connect with the best fit advisors, fiduciary advisors such as yourself, who are uniquely qualified to help support not only their financial needs, but also their life goals. And yes, trustwillow.com.
Perfect. All right. And I think I like having people make their own introduction. I was hoping you'd say this and you didn't, but when I was introduced to you, it was phrased as like a dating app for finding an advisor.
Thank you.
I thought was awesome and very relatable for people.
So much better. Yes, we are the Bumble for finding your financial advisor. Actually, that's so true. And I'm sorry that I fell down on mentioning
That's okay.
that.
I was just hoping to hear those words. I didn't, but we got it. We're all good. So I think that your platform is very interesting. And I wanted to bring you on today because there's a few aspects that are interesting. One is you've zeroed in on these different demographics of people, and there's probably a million different ways you can divide up the American population and sorting by groups and characteristics and everything else. But you've identified a few that you feel are in need of more financial planning assistance or have financial planning needs that don't fit the general population necessarily or have just different needs. So I guess I'd like to hear your thoughts on why you picked a couple of different groups of people and why you feel they need better attention.
Yeah, no, great question, Alex. So the financial services industry and financial advisors historically focused on older clients, right? On those folks who are nearing retirement or in retirement. And they have also predominantly focused historically on men. And as we look moving forward with this generational wealth transfer that's happening and with how we see women becoming not just the co-breadwinners, but the primary breadwinners, graduating from college in high numbers. Long story short, all this is showing that actually the majority of wealth holders moving forward really will not only be women, but also our younger folks, right? Our folks really 50 and below, millennials, Gen Z. The industry hasn't actually been built historically to better serve those clients. The majority of women and younger investors are like reporting at really high 70, 80%. Like they can't find an advisor, that they're dissatisfied with their experience. Like this wasn't for me. This is for my parents, not for me. So that's why we're focused. We're focused on these groups. And I also have lived the experience because I am a data point in all those different groups. So women, the next gen, I'm Cuban American. So that's also my personal experience helps me want to focus on doing a better job for those.
Sure. That makes a lot of sense. And I think as a financial advisor, and I've been doing this for 12 years, I think. So over my career, the experience that I've had is meeting with couples. There's usually one person in the couple who takes the lead in financial planning. In my experience, it's not always the man, but it usually is the man. And to me as an advisor, I find it very important to make sure that even the less interested party, so if it's the wife in the situation, my challenge as an advisor is making sure that they stay engaged in the process, that I'm communicating with them just as much as I am with their husband. Because the reality is, even if they're not being vocal saying, I want to learn about this stuff, they probably feel very uncomfortable with finances if they're not up to speed on it. Nobody wants to be in the dark. So I think that's one of maybe the first things that stood out to me about your program is finding ways to help bring the other party in, whether it is a woman, which a lot of times it is. So what are some strategies that you think a couple can use to make sure both parties are on the same page financially? I know it's a broad question.
It's a great question though, right? It's one of the trickiest because we know one of the top things that couples who argue about or potentially lead to divorce, right, is finances, right?
Yes.
Money.
So I don't want to cut you off, but I had a guest on a few episodes ago, Nate, and he's a financial therapist. We talked about that. We said that one of the number one reasons for divorce is always finances, and he suggested that's not true. That it's manifesting itself in a conversation about finance, but there's way deeper rooted issues about their relationship than that. Which Nate doesn't have to be right, but he seemed pretty confident when he said that.
I think there's probably truth in that, but it's the conversation becomes around is around money, right? Maybe
Yeah,
like
I'd probably
exactly
agree with
about
you, but don't tell him I said that.
their values and whatnot. But no, I actually think what Nate said to you and what I'm about to say are aligned very much. I think it's really important to have, we call it like have a financial date or kind of a money date and try to make it as actually have conversations about money as openly, honestly, and also like at convenient time where I know this sounds crazy. Bear with me for a second as I say, almost try to make it a romantic thing. But the reality is the majority of time that conversations come up around money, they're when people are stressed, they're late at night, they're when you're dealing with a financial stress, right? Something's come up or a decision that has to be made and it's not the right time, right? Because right then any other issues underlying stress or anxiety or challenges are then fueling how you're reacting and what you're saying. Versus if you find like a good time, which is a neutral time and like a neutral setting, and you're actually take a step back and talk about, okay, we're going to talk about money. So first of all, just like openly and honestly, with absolutely no judgment, what is your financial picture? Like, what does it look like if you're starting a new relationship or you're getting serious with somebody? If you've been with somebody for a long time and you've never done this, you definitely still could do it, right? But just sort of here is what my financial picture looks like. And then when I think about money, what does it mean to me? And what are some of my priorities and what are some of my values? And give each person a chance to talk and to share, right? And don't react.
Don't judge them. Don't jump on them.
Don't judge them. Just take it in and take it as, okay, we're getting to know each other. There's going to be things which we agree on and that there's commonalities and alignment. And there are going to be things that are like, uh-oh, you know, or no, like this is concerning, or this is challenging, or this is something that I need to take a breath on. And then, but here's the thing, take that breath. Think about it. Take a step back, right? You're not in the middle of like making a decision. It's not like we need to make a decision right now. We're going to send our kid to this program or not, right? Like before the deadline. That's like the worst time, right? Everybody's fighting in the tears or whatever. But if you're like, okay, let's think about the next year and some of the things we want to accomplish, and we have time and we can think through it in the places that we're different, then we can see if these are things that we can come together on. And what one person needs to, like, we know relationships require compromise. Okay, if you want to take this vacation, and actually I agree that it would be important to do it too, like, all right, where else are we cutting costs? What types of changes can we make together? And it's a little bit easier at that time.
Yeah, I think when you talk about compromise, you think about any of the kind of the end goals a couple might have. It all starts with that communication. And one of the cool things that I've gotten to experience as an advisor, and I've kind of, my mindset on this has evolved over the years where I started to get more of an appreciation for this kind of thing, is I meet with my clients twice a year. We do every 6 months a review meeting. And it's dawned on me a lot more recently that the 2 times a year where they're sitting down in person with me is a lot of times the only time that those 2 people are talking about their finances. So when you talk about having that money date where the couple's supposed to get together and talk about finances, I get to witness that. And sometimes there's a lot of value in the review meeting. There's like heavy things we're doing, the real heavy lifting of finance or whatever. And we're making real recommendations on real changes. But a lot of times it's just a review meeting where everything's kind of status quo, but it forces the married couple, the husband and wife or whoever, to have this conversation that they're probably not going to have until they're at my office again in 6 months. So I think just facilitating that open, honest conversation is a lot of what we bring to the table as an advisor, if we're doing it right. But part of it is me asking the right questions. It can't just be like, here's your rate of return. It's got to be, what does this money mean to you? What are your feelings towards money? What do you think about when you made a decision to spend versus save? And get them talking about that, not just I'm up 10% year to date. Woohoo. Who cares?
No, that's the true value, Alex. You nailed it. That's what we at Willow, we only want to work with advisors who truly care about their clients and who are wanting to learn how to play that role of coach and a guide and a facilitator and understand and realize that money is emotional. And one of the greatest values that you're bringing to the relationship for either an individual or obviously in this context, a couple or partners or parents and children or whoever that kind of couple may be, is that you're helping to create this safe space and to facilitate those conversations which are really hard, which aren't always really easy. And frankly, that is wonderful if you can help to do that for your clients. And I would say for everybody who's listening, if you're not working with an advisor who actually you feel like, wow, this is somebody who can help me to have those trickier conversations and do it in a way that is a safe space where we're both able to express our concerns, our hopes, our dreams, our wishes, but then figure out how we're going to get to consensus and a great kind of financial plan as a result of it, then we encourage that you should be doing so.
Yes. And I think where the conversation changes, so we talked about how important it is to have both parties involved in the financial planning conversation.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, whether it's usually a woman, like we said, but a woman or a man, if you are the party that's in the dark on the finances, the real problem with that is when something changes, which is, God forbid, you are widowed, God forbid, you go through a divorce, and all of a sudden you've had somebody to rely on for the financial planning stuff, or they're the person talking to the advisor all the time and you're not. And then that person's not there anymore. So then you've got to navigate it. And when you're going through something as difficult as a divorce or losing your spouse or whatever it is, to then have to pile on top of that the stress of figuring out your finances is, of course, a certain kind of hell. So I would rather have people already be part of the conversation. And if I do have to call you and connect with you after you lose your spouse, I don't want that to be the first time you've talked to me. I want you to already have a great relationship, know where you can go, have a level of trust, and not just be panicked trying to figure stuff out.
No, and that's so critical. And I'd say for everybody, it's okay to play different roles in a relationship, right? You don't have to both be the financial spouse. You don't,
Sure.
one person can be more in charge and one person can take more of a back seat. That often works really well. And it doesn't have to be the traditional gender roles. In fact, we're seeing more and more that women are really taking the charge on this more than you'd expect historically. But you could be a woman who doesn't want to take charge. That's totally fine. But I would say that there's two things that if you are the partner who is in charge, then it's your job to make sure, to help to make sure. It's the financial advisor's for sure job to bring both of them into the conversation and make sure that both are understood and listened to and both know. But also it's your job to help to make sure that you have provided access to all the information and that if something happens to you, they're going to be okay, right? They know where the account information is, they know like where the budgets are, they know where everything that they need so that they're going to be all right, set up with an advisor who can help them, right? Who can act as that fiduciary and can support them, not only through the very difficult transition, but through to make sure that they're financially secure, confident, and comfortable moving forward. But if you're the one who's left though, then it's really important for you to ask. If you're not, if you don't know where this information is and you don't know, there's some baseline things that you should make sure that you have an understanding of, like how much your life really costs and what types of accounts you have and where things are, right? And if you don't have that information, really it's in your best interest. And I would say, particularly as we're focused a lot around women, the latest data from Fidelity is that 94% of all women believe that they will end up becoming solely responsible for their finances, for their household at some point in their lives. And either if it's through unexpectedly through death or through divorce, it's happening, right? So it's really, if you gotta put that oxygen mask on yourself and make sure that you're gonna be okay and you're gonna be able to, if you've got dependents, that you're gonna be able to care for them.
Absolutely. Gotta look out for number one. It's the whole, if you're on an airplane, it's going down, you gotta put your own air mask on before you assist somebody else.
Yeah.
That's not how they phrase it on the intercom, but that's what I.
No, and I know I always felt, I remember when I was younger, I was like, I don't understand how they can tell you. I had a child when I was in my 20s. I remember how could you not put the oxygen mask on your child before yourself? Like that be seen. But then you get to that point in life where you realize you're like, if you stop breathing, they're not going to be okay. So I'm like, if you're somebody who doesn't want to think about it for yourself, but you've got dependents, you need to make sure that how are you going to continue to pay the bills, right? Or
you can't pour from an empty cup analogy.
Exactly.
Obviously, I've been doing this a long enough time to have some ideas on what the challenges were and what we were trying to overcome. But one of the things that stood out to me was you talked about the differences in the approach to financial planning that someone like myself might need to take with a man versus a woman. And of course, we're speaking generalities. There are people that fit into different categories. We can talk about that. But you gave the example of men tend to really focus on like the specific details of a financial plan. What is my rate of return and those types of hard numbers? Whereas women's concerns around financial planning is more, am I going to be okay? Do I have financial security? So that being said, what are some other nuances to financial planning for women versus men? And if you're a woman listening to this, what are some things that you should be thinking about that maybe you're not?
Yes, no, I think we know through lots of data and through lots of years in the industry that the majority of women, when they think about their money, they're thinking about the value and the benefit and what money does, right? The emotions around it. So money, and that as it's less about, am I beating the S&P? What the performance is? It's about, do I have enough money to cover the cost of my life? Do I have enough money to buy that house? Do I have enough money to make sure my kids can go to school? Do I have enough money to retire? They're thinking about it much more in the context of how it relates to like their security, right? Or their ability to like live
Well,
out their.
it's a means to an end, right? Like it's not money for the sake of having money. It's how does this money help you live the best life you can live,
Yeah.
support people you care about, support causes you care about. And I think that's really important in financial planning. And I don't mean to go on a segue here, but we run into this all the time with clients who are retired. They did very well. They were good
Yeah.
savers, and they have X amount of dollars sitting on the sidelines. And without us intervening and encouraging them to spend their money, like the goal shouldn't be to die with $10 million. The goal
Yeah.
should be to use the money that you worked hard for to have the retirement you deserve, to maximize your joy throughout your life, support people you care about. And I think based on what we've talked about, maybe women are better at that than men are. Is that
Yeah,
fair?
no, and I think for some people, it might be that they really want to create a legacy, right? They want to pass money down to their children or their families or to a cause that's really important to them. But I think we say today, just with majority, not just women, but also with younger, both men and women are all genders. Younger folks are really focused around kind of living out their values, right? So it's like, what are in financial planning, certainly with women, and I'd say even like with younger investors across the board, is starting with, okay, understanding what that individual's or that family's priorities are, what their values are, what their priorities, what are the goals that they want to accomplish. So making sure, yeah, that how are they going to do those things? How are they going to have the financial plan, the investment strategy that supports them being able to accomplish those things? But rather than leading with products or services or performance, like it's about understanding like what are your goals? What's important to you? And then how do we make sure that the financial plan is what comes second, right? Or the investment strategies come second or third, right? It's much more about making sure that we help you to live out your values. We help you to accomplish the things that you want. And that, to your point, like money is the means to the end to do those things versus an end goal itself to just have dollars sitting in the bank.
Yeah, no, I love that. I think you look at, you can phrase it in terms of behavioral finance, what makes you make the decisions that you do, and maybe just the approach that men and women take to that are completely different, but also maybe there's no wrong answer. Although I would say women have it right there. So I guess another direction, I don't really know how to phrase this one, but what is one mistake that you think a lot of women are currently making with their money? Meaning if we got to this ideal spot in the future where women are just as involved in the financial planning process as men are, what does that look like? And what do women today need to do to make that happen in the future?
I think the majority of folks out there have a few things that they feel like they should be doing that they're not doing, and that's the number one mistake.
Okay.
It's sort of not taking that first step, right? That could relate to, we look at older, when I say older, it's more like my age and older, right? From the look at like higher end millennial, Gen X, like baby boomer women are just have not invested enough. They haven't put enough money away from retirement, or what we're here, the majority of the time are saying, I didn't start investing soon enough. I didn't start saving for retirement soon enough. I'm not doing X, Y, Z. So I'd say that first thing is whatever you feel like you're not doing, that's the number one thing, because just take the next step. And I also hear all the time, my gosh, I talk to people all the time. And obviously we help to connect people to great financial advisors, right? Who are trusted, who are fiduciaries, who are like, you just earned your certificate, who actually really understand how to empathize and to educate and to empower like women investors specifically. And they say, oh yes, I need one of those, but I just have to get my act together first. And as soon as I get through this, or as soon as, and I'm like, stop. Like, would you wait until you felt better before going to the doctor? Because the time is now, right? Like we have this, particularly women, there's this like shame or this fear about, I should know more, I should have done better. I should be further ahead. And if I talk to someone, he's going to judge me. And I'm like, that's a misconception that we need to fix, because the advisor is there to come in and to help you, right? To help you to go from the place of feeling like, I don't have it together. I'm not doing what I should be doing. I need to be doing more. And that's 150% okay. And actually, how do we then help you to do all the things that you really should be doing and accelerate that process versus like spending another 6 months, couple of years procrastinating, feeling badly, then getting, because then you're missing out on compounding, right? Which is a really important thing.
All right. So the biggest mistake is not taking that first step.
Yeah, I think it's not
Where
taking
do they
that.
go for that first step? One of the things I was taught early in my career was a litmus test for whether or not you should work with a client. So as
Yeah.
me, an advisor, deciding whether I want to work with a client, is if that person's name comes up on your caller ID on your phone, and the first reaction is like
Yeah.
maybe you're only listening to this so you can't see my face, but like a reaction that's obviously, I'm not pleased to have to talk to this person. If that's the reaction you have, then they're not a good fit as a client. And I would say the same
100%.
thing on the other side. If you're a client, your financial advisor calls you see the caller ID, and you think, oh, I got to talk to Alex or whoever, you're probably not a good fit. And it doesn't have to mean that they're a bad advisor, or you're a bad whatever, but find somebody that you resonate with that is a good fit for you personality wise, I think is maybe my biggest piece of advice for anybody listening to this.
100%. It is so important, because you certainly don't want to, you want to be excited and to feel like, hey, he's going to help me make things better.
Yeah.
It's really important, because otherwise, and that's a big part of this whole, the financial wellness or financial freedom or financial security, where if you want to run and hide from you see an email pop up from your advisor versus this is somebody who I feel good talking to and helps me to understand what I need to and make good decisions, right? It's critical. So I agree with you 100%.
Cool. The alternatives, or how people typically find their financial advisor, is they get a referral from a trusted person, a friend, family member, which is fine, but your neighbor, your brother-in-law, whoever it is, might have very different financial needs than you, might have a very different personality than you. So maybe the advisor you're referring to isn't great. So that's one alternative. The other alternative is you Google financial advisor near me and you pick one, which also isn't great, maybe. Or you're very thorough and you spend time like interviewing 10 different financial advisors and hopefully find the one that's truly an awesome fit for you, which if you're willing to take the time to do that, more power to you. But most people are probably too busy to actually do that. So I think going through a third party to point you in the right direction is a great option that didn't exist 10 years ago, or at least I don't know that it existed 10 years ago. So I'm happy to find it.
Thank you. We're excited. And it's great. We're working with advisors who are really passionate, who care about their clients, like who want to do a better job, who want to make their clients, want to help them achieve their goals. And that's what's really makes this fun, right? Is that I think that, and obviously the passion, working with women and working with younger investors who have historically not felt like the industry was for them. And quite frankly, the industry is catching up, because they need to realize that you guys are really shaping the future, right? We are today's clients and we are the future of wealth. And I'm thrilled to be working, Alex, with advisors like you who really get that and who really care about their clients and are trying to our everyday growth mindset. How do I do a better job? How do I make sure that my clients feel confident, feel secure, are getting the best outcome? And so that's really what makes it fun for me. Fun, we're excited.
One of the things I was taught when I came in the industry is at that time, I think the average age of a financial advisor, I'm going to get this wrong, was like 58 years old. I don't know what the current number is, but I guessed it got a little bit older. So at some point, there is going to be a turnover in our industry, which is an opportunity for us to have a fresh start with younger advisors working in a different way. And one of the ways they can do that is working with people that weren't traditionally seeking financial advice. And it could be having the man and woman, husband and wife, whoever it is, on the same table financially, like we talked about a few minutes ago. So really excited for that, really excited for where our industry is going. Thrilled to be partnering with Willow and other great organizations like yourself. But we're going to wrap it up. I'll give you a chance. Do you have any questions for me before we do that?
What's your best financial tip?
Oh, no. Best financial tip. All right. I'll make this one timely. So if you're listening to this months later, it won't make a whole lot of sense. But there's an election coming up. I don't know if, Lacy, have you heard about this? There's going to be a presidential election.
Really?
Yeah, it's crazy. So we're starting to get a lot of questions about that, about like, what should I do with my finances if so-and-so wins or so-and-so wins? And my advice financially is turn the TV off, spend time with your kids and your family. Don't worry about that. No matter who wins this next election, we're going to be okay, I think. And it really shouldn't change your investment philosophy, regardless of who wins. We're staying in the market, and the end investor does not care as much as you think they do about who's president. We'll be okay. That's it.
Great.
On that note, we do need to wrap it up. So thank you, Lacy, for being here. Thank you, everybody, for listening. This has been the Roadmap to Retirement podcast.
Content here is for illustrative purposes and general information only. It is not legal, tax, or individualized financial advice, nor is it a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold any specific security or engage in any specific trading strategy. Results will vary. Past performance is no indication of future results or success. Market conditions change continuously. This commentary reflects the personal opinions, viewpoints, and analyses of Alex Neri. It does not necessarily represent those of RFG Advisory, their clients, or their employees. This commentary should not be regarded as a description of advisory services provided by Alex Neri or RFG Advisory, or performance returns of any client. The views reflected in the commentary are subject to change at any time without notice. Advisory services offered by investment advisory representatives of RFG Advisory, a registered investment advisor. Alex Neri and RFG Advisory are unaffiliated entities. Advisory services are only offered to clients or prospective clients where RFG Advisory and its representatives are properly licensed or exempt from licensure. No advisory services may be rendered by RFG Advisory unless a client agreement is in place.